while other people are worried about a pandemic around the nation, here in Chicago, we have a pandemic of our own that we are battling, and that is crime and violence. July was one of the most bloodiest months of the year. 105 murders were reported in July, up 139% from July of 2019. July of 2019 saw 232 shooting incidents, and July of 2020 saw 406. This year alone, so far, there has been a total of 430 homicides in the city of Chicago. In the month of July, there was 573 shooting incidents. 58 of them were minors, including 3 3-year-olds, a 7-year-old, and a 9-year-old. Today's guests hold 2 very important titles just by birthright alone, and can possibly hold the key, or if not, shed some light on how to curb the violence in our city of Chicago. This is a very special edition of Frankly Speaking, with none other than Ameena Mathews Fort, daughter of Jeff Fort, founder of the El Rookin Nation, Black Peace Stone Nation, and also with Larry Hoover Jr., whose father is the founder of the Gangster Disciples. Hey, you guys, welcome. Thank you so much for sharing this platform. This is historic. I think this is the first time you guys shared a platform together, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here with me today, man. Chicago loves you. We have a tremendous amount of respect for you, and I think this is a historical moment. Let's get right started up. Ameena, for quite some time, you have been in something called the Interrupters, which you got national acclaim for. You received an award for your work as a community activist with Black Girls Rock. And I want to pose the first question to you. What was your father's vision when he created the Black Peace Stone Nation?
Thanks, Frankie, and thanks a lot for having this conversation. You know, it's well needed. His vision, I wasn't there when he sat down and said, you know, I want to do this, and, you know, but just understanding how my dad is and how he thinks, I'm sure it was not definitely for the times that he was locked up for, as well as today. So it's always been love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So, I mean, that's equality.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would, if you would ask me what I would think that my dad's vision was, equality. A young man that, you know, young, coming up, 10 siblings from Aberdeen, Mississippi. And, you know, dad was a sharecropper and mom was, you know, working different jobs to feed, you know, as a, someone that was helping and serve the white race, the European. So when they came up this way, dad, he was like the oldest, so he had to figure it out. He had to help my granddad feed his siblings. And, you know, his vision was just to make sure that his mom and dad can feed his children, you know, and I do know that for a fact. So it's you know, it's hard for me to speak for him, Frankie, on what he thought at that moment, but it hasn't been what's going on now, you know, waking up every morning to a young child being shot. That's unacceptable, and that was unacceptable, you know, in his time growing up as a young leader in the community. So what his vision, I can't speak for it, but it's definitely not what's going on in today in Chicago, across the United States.
Larry, what about you? What was your father's vision when he created the Gangster Disciples?
Well, like Ameena, it's true. I wasn't there. I don't know exactly what his vision was, but it's really not what he grew into over time. But they were kids, and they were surrounded by different neighborhoods. And when they left out of their neighborhood, they would have to fight. So they got together as groups of kids that would go play basketball, that would go to parties and what have you. They were just doing things that kids do. And they just made their group for when they left to protect each other, to protect themselves. They were like boxed in the area that they were in. And as time went on, it evolved and grew into other things. And I know one thing that he was interested in was he wanted to have something that was as big as Ameena's father at some point in life, but not when it was just created. When it was created, it was it was just to protect themselves. His group of friends that lived in that area that they lived in,
Right.
they were protecting themselves against the other kids in the neighborhoods that they went outside of their whatever radius that was, the square radius that they were inside of. They needed help when they went to parties or when they went to go play basketball. It would end in fights, so they were just trying to protect themselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Both of your fathers are in prison at this time, and I want to know, do you think things would be different if they were both here now, and what would be different? Larry, I'm gonna pose that question to you.
Okay, when you say if he was here now, would things be different? You have to look at the fact of if he never left and was put in federal custody, or if he came from federal custody. So if he never left and was put in federal custody, I think things would be different, because the movement that he had going on was teaching the community and helping the youth make a change. You know, he had an open development thing going, which people see as, because of the initials GD, which, I mean, he's proud where it came from, but it's not for GD. Growth and development is actually what it says. It's growing and developing. And if that movement would have kept going in 21st Century Vote, I think that he wouldn't have, a lot of the bond between the older generation and the youth would still be there. So I think that it would be different, because the respect wouldn't be lost, the bond wouldn't be lost, the ties wouldn't be lost. The men that he was trying to teach to be fathers to their kids would have did the things they would have needed to do to be fathers to their kids, to be part of society. So if he would have never left, I think things would be different, because the bond wouldn't have been broken. We never would have gotten to this point. Now, if they were to bring him home right now at this point, he doesn't know the people that are involved in what's going on. He may be able to help direct some people to try to make changes, but like, I don't think he would be able to just, be the one that would make it go away. I mean, he doesn't know them people. He's been out of touch with the community for 20 plus years.
Absolutely.
And the government and everybody else knows that.
Ameena, what do you think?
I think that if he, as well as, what Larry, said, is if he would have never left, we wouldn't be in this circumstance and situation at all. If he wouldn't have left, he would have been able to continue educating the community by him learning, because of the relationships that he had with people that had certain types of understanding that can open up the city. And because they made a decision to allow my dad to be accused for something that he knew nothing about, and has spent over 3 decades in a maximum facility, if he would come out, would things be different? In the world today, and with the electronics, and my dad would not understand as deep as it is. My dad does not even understand the culture of how it is out with drugs, or he doesn't. He doesn't. So yes, he's been out of touch. Can we communicate with him as much as we can about what's going on in the streets? he communicates with us. You know, he asks questions about what's going on. But my focus when I speak to my dad is to talk about how his great grandchildren are doing. You know, what's going on with you know, his grandchildren, what's going on with me. That's our conversation. Would I think that his strength that he has and that he's had to endure, if his voice is a voice that needs to be heard, far as his story and what is so more alike in these times when he was, you know, coming up than different, yes, I think that it would be, and for the better, you know, because our guys, they're out here, you know, they're not educated. They're not educated on consequences and the laws and, you know, and not even the Constitution, because it's poorly given in education that has been a design to fill us as well.
What are some things that go on now that would never go on had your father not been in prison? Ameena.
I would never wake up to not just babies being killed, gunshots at 10 and to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning on our highways where our grandmothers and our families travel. Not just only that, we wouldn't even understand what the bodies are that are dropping now. That would be absurd. The petty, you know, and I'm not minimizing how people are feeling about why they feel the way that, but it's not worth your soul feeling very, very, very wicked from the point on because you killed a baby. That would never go on. Sisters coming missing. That would never happen, Frankie. Do you understand what I'm saying? That would, so I think his voice, you know, is very pertinent in the education of who we are and who Black men are, and you know, from even back in Malcolm and the Chairman Fred Hampton's days, Dad can tell that story. Dad can tell that story for what has been set up and designed for our young men and women today from when he was young, when he was coming through the trenches with the faith-based leaders and the politicians, you know, where he was put up to teach the community, recruit, and make sure that opportunity, please not, still continues, and TWO is manifested in apostolic faith, and Woodline is established. And he's been locked up for, I'm, you know, my heart is broken, but I am just really so like, what the, really? So now we need to, you know, galvanize together as a people and make some decisions and some serious choices. That's what we must do.
I agree.
And
Go ahead, Larry.
Likewise, in that situation, just the you know, the lack of respect for self and each other wouldn't be here. It would be different. The shooting and the killing of the kids and the innocent bystanders and everything, it would be here. It wouldn't be respected. It wouldn't be okay. People couldn't run and hide in the trenches with doing things like these. You know, it would, you know, if he wasn't gone, it never would have got to this point. When you take away the leaders, the people that are guiding the youth, and they're left to guide themselves, I mean, what's going to happen? You know what I mean? If they're kids themselves and they don't know any better, the media, music, and movies and what have you is bringing them up. That's what they go grow into. But they took our leaders off the street. They took the fathers off the street, and you know, this is what you get when you take away the influence.
What's the biggest myth that you want to dispel about your father, Larry?
Okay, well, it's a couple things I would like to say as far as that is concerned. One is that My father is a monster with the intentions to destroy the community and the people inside of the community, where he loves his people and he loves his community. He might have started out as a youth, but he matured and he learned and he grew. That's one myth. And the other myth is that if he comes home, that everything will just stop, that he has the all power. That's also the same that keeps him locked up. The threat of the power that he would have is he's a caring individual who cares for his people and his community, and that, you know, he's not in control of what's going on, and he couldn't possibly just stop everything that's going on.
Ameena, what about you? What's the biggest myth about your father that you want to dispel?
Really just the charge that we're looking at right now, that he's living in, that he conspired against his community, you know, that he conspired against the United States. That's not who Mr. Jeff Ford is. That is not who he was then. You know, let's see. I know that he wants me to continue to let it be known that it wasn't even an intent. It was that his passion wasn't to destroy the community. He wanted, and did protect the community. And that, you know, that he wanted to see devastation for his children and the future. That's not true. So, you know, he's, you know, one thing that I can say about Mr. Ford, my father, I never, whatever my life was about, and it was my life, and he never, ever interfered. He never exerted any authority or power, not even to his daughter. That was a piece of work, you know, and made bad decisions. But he was definitely supportive of whatever decision that I made. So, and his grandchildren and his great-grandchildren, you know, constantly reiterates to be better than he was as a kid, trying to figure it out with a whole bunch of authority that was given to him, not by the streets, but by the faith-based leaders and the elected officials. He was invited to the inauguration of Nixon just after serving contempt as a young man.
So a lot like Larry, do you have the same sentiments that if your father came home today, then just like poof, the problem would be solved with the crime?
Absolutely not. You know, Frank, because it just didn't poof begin. This is not just 3 decades that he's been away, but this has been over 400 years. But, you know, since I can remember that my family's been talking about the cruel and mistreatment that was done to the young men at the time that my father was in the city of Chicago being a citizen, and young men such as Mr. Hoover has been subjected to abuse by, you know, the policing, you know, commander, cohorts. There's been countless. There's anger here. So no, I don't think that it will change immediately, but I do believe that with time, quickly, restorative practicing, whole bunch of restorative practicing, therapy and healing for our community, our young men and women can understand the story and the struggle of the young men such as Jeff Ford in the times of when he was coming up, it's the same times.
What do, Larry, what do you think would be a possible poof and be gone solution. I mean, we know that that is probably not logical, that overnight everything is just going to stop. But what do you think is the major problem with the gang culture in Chicago?
I think a major problem with gang culture is gang culture. Like, what is the need for it? You know what I mean? Like, and then there's so much violence involved in it. You know what I mean? Gang culture, okay, is different groups. You know, a group is considered a gang in different groups. But where is the violence necessary at? Because we're different groups. We see different groups in everything. You got a different radio station, as may be into with the other radio station. It's America. It's the culture that we live in. But I think the violence is the problem with the gang culture. Like, what is the violence necessary for? We the same thing. We going through the same problems. Just because you're a vice lord, a stone, or whatever. I mean, we the same people. You know what I mean? You a Latin king. I mean, we the same people. We're going through the same things. It's really a poor people problem. It's not really a gang issue. We all going through the same issues. What is the violence for? Because we're in a different group. I mean, explain it. So that's the problem I see with it. It's the violence.
I agree, 100%. I agree. Ameena, what are your thoughts?
Education, restorative practicing, and that's really what Larry is saying. Just because we come from whatever ideology in our mind, or thinking that our loyalty may lie, we don't have to kill a young child, an innocent bystanders. We can ask to not ask, but demand and take as a people equality, and that we can own our businesses and buildings and property in our community that we pay taxes for. So I think education, and that's something that regardless of how disconnect that my father is, that is something that he has always talked about, even when I was young, about making sure that you tie your camel, generational wealth. And how the policing is done, and how things are done to keep the disenfranchised in a total infraction by debt. So I think that the education piece, and the loyalty that dad has for relationships with family, I think that will show wonders in the community, as him being a strong man, to see that he stepped in and trying to figure it out with restorative practicing, and made sure his family was fine, and address the community as an elder, as a young man that has traveled through the same streets that these young guys did. So the conversation, and such as this is the door opener. This is a safe space for me, it feels. So I'm pretty sure that I can speak to my own man and let him know that this is a safe space. I think that you should address this body as your body. As Larry said, what does that mean right now in these times, as they're going to give 30 to 50 years bedtime for people that looted downtown Chicago? What time do we have for that? We don't have time for that. We have time to focus on how we can change laws quickly, immediately, and make sure that those conversations start by making sure that you vote the right people in, so we can change laws to go get my dad, to go get young men that was structure in the community, that was leaders that so happily intimidated those that felt like they had power. And that was so far from the mark, and they made a deadly mistake by taking him off the street. Deadly.
And that one other thing that I want to mention as far as gang culture is the simple fact that nobody wins. It's lost after loss after loss after loss. Like it's no winning point in gang culture. So why would you play that game? You know,
Mm-hmm.
We will win with what she's talking about when we start coming together and putting people in power that have our best interests at heart. When we can
Mm-hmm.
control our own lives, control what goes on in the city. And, that's what scares them. If we come together, it's all about a gang thing. If they come together, it's just them coming together. But we coming together and we trying to bring our community together to vote and make a change and get the wrong out the way and right people in play. It's a problem. It scares them. It's a threat to their power.
Mm-hmm. What do you guys think is, yes, agreed. What do you think is a driving force that continues to perpetuate this violence in our city? Like a major, for me, I'll speak on this. I think that a lot of people don't acknowledge the fact that we have a new age of drug addicts, and the drug of choice is causing a lot of mental illness as a result. The pill thing is out of control. The drug thing, period, is out of control. What factors do you think are driving forces to continue to perpetuate this violence in our city?
I feel the same way, Frankie. And the thing about it is, and it's lack of education, and not to minimize that we have the most intelligent culture that I've ever seen in the years that I've been. I feel like I'm almost the brightest crayon in the batch, but these guys are amazing. So on top of all of that pent up, trying to figure it out with a pill, with the alcohol, with some type of what they think is cannabis, on top of what they were born in systemically of PTSD that is may cause some type of, in the DNA, a schizo, you know what I'm saying? And so I believe that the lack of resources for our young men and women in the schools, and the support that they needed, not to deem them a bad child, but to make sure that they are tested for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that from that point, the anger and the rage, and with on top of the drug, fuels and ignites that rage that changes young men and women's lives on a secondly basis here in the city of Chicago.
Yeah.
So we have to do better.
Yeah, and I also agree that drugs play a big part in pushing the violence that's going on, because the young men are out of their mind when they do the things that they do. You hear a lot of stories of people when they come down from the high that they had, that they don't know what they did.
They don't even know where they at, what they did. Yep.
They find out that they killed somebody. Then the lack of education, us as parents are failing a lot of these kids. We're having kids before we're ready to have kids, and we're not ready to raise our kids. Like, it's a big job to raise a child. Buying a child some Jordans and a nice shirt is not raising a child. So, like, we are letting our kids down. Like, if you're too young to have a child and you're a child yourself, how you gonna guide a child? It's the violence, like she says, everything goes back to education. And somebody has to do the educating. If you're not getting it at home and there's no respect for your parents at home, then you go to school and you can't expect the teachers to do it, along with everything we've been experiencing over the years, the minds we have that we have to change, that it's possible to know that we're great people and that we can do great things. Our mindset is lost. We feel like it's nothing for us and nothing possible. On top of that, it's really a small percentage of us that's causing the problems. But the squeaky wheel gets all the oil. And the media portrays that as us as a whole. because that's how they want to see us, that okay is the way that they treat us. You know, it's not everybody. It's a large majority of people that's not taking part in the violence, you know, that love each other and want to enjoy the community and the people in it and see change happen. But the people that, you know, make the noise, that's who get all the attention. So the violence gets the attention and it portrays us in a different light, and that makes it say it's okay to, you know, treat them niggas like that.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever think, well, first let me ask you this. What do you think the city can do more of to control the narrative of what's going on as far as the violence goes? And how big of a part do you think policing plays in the violence in the city? Ameena.
Well,
or Larry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I believe that the city as a part can give the money to the people that know what to do to make the changes. Like, I believe a lot of it starts with the youth. I'm talking about not the kids that's in it, but before the kids get to the mentality of where they're in it. You know, you need to grab the little kids and after school programs and all that different stuff, not for them to play and just have fun and just be in a safe space. But like Ameena says, you need to educate them so they can understand what not to do and what not to grow into, and that we love each other. And no matter where he comes from or she comes from, it's okay. We need to learn how to love each other from a young age so we don't get to a age a little older and start, you know, getting involved in what we see the people are doing right now. You know, the programs need to be for the youth. The kids that are in it right now that's going to be another story. They have mental health issues. They need therapy. I mean, it's so much that's going to need to be done to reach the ones that are there that feel like they're at the point of no return. You have to find the ones from within, the ones that are in it, to help make a change with those. You can't come from the outside, at least I don't believe, and just change what's going on with the ones that's in it. You have to find the people in it with them, the people that they trust, and, you know, maybe you can influence them to influence the ones that's in it. But I don't believe outside people can really do anything, and there's no trust with the police, so they're not really going to be able to do anything. They need to show that they're sorry with their actions. They say, I'm sorry. They need to show that they're sorry with their actions. That's some trust that's going to be hard to get back.
Ameena?
You know, the community has to build from the ground up, you know. I remember in order for our ancestors to become free, they had to burn the plantation down. And that meant, you know, the guys and the families that was in the house and living good. And, you know, so our family, we're at that point now. And we must come together to figure out collectively how we can, everybody should be on the front line with our young guys and girls, our voting blocks, our future, our legacy, the ones to determine how if I should get Social Security not contingent to their right-minded voting and making decisions. We must continue to provide safe space for them in the communities. If the city doesn't, we still must. The policing, you know, one thing that I can say about our youth, it's not just, you know, the rap music, and it's not just that, Frankie, and people, and Larry knows, the homeless population of our young people from 13 years old to 24, 25 up on is stagnating. But if we just categorize from 14 to 21, just in South Deering and Woodlawn only, I'm not even speaking about Inglewood and those little pockets of, you know, precincts and districts within the community. So they're struggling, our youth is struggling with a multifaceted of illness you know, and in a state of mind. So we must, I can't say medicate them, but make sure that they get stable. And if that means to make sure that they eat, you know, because I don't know what a young person has to travel through or has traveled through that made it to the other side from the city of Chicago, because the weaponry via the federal government of, you know, let out on our cities in Chicago and our poverty stricken communities, you know. So we must make sure that we're taking care of our community as we're moving forward to make decisions as far as voting. With the policing, you know, defund. I believe that, yes, however it needs to happen, it needs to be some restoration and reform in that institution, which in that game, if I will say, because over the last 4 decades, well, just here recently, you know, the gang leader of policing in Chicago died with a pension, John Burgess, that tortured a lot of people. So, you know, that mentality, and they have a model that they're teaching in schools up north and on the far northwest side, to teach and train that mentality to fuel that anger on the street through policing. So we must make sure that we're wise on that and make decisions that we stand up to reform and take that mindset totally out. If that means to build from 10 years back to up, you know, then that's fine. Everybody else needs to retire and build a new structure that is trustworthy, transparent, and people that are from the community can come in and serve the community on the policing force. But right now, there's nothing. There's nothing that can be done. Just to continue, I would hope to tell our youth to change their mindset so we can vote and change policy and laws.
Amazing. Larry, do you think there'll ever be a day of peace in Chicago?
I actually don't believe that there will be a day of peace. I believe there will be safer times, but I don't believe that it will be peace, because there's no peace in America. America has never been peaceful, and everything that we go through, and I mean, it's just not gonna happen. That's all we know is violence, and for us to have peace and live in an unpeaceful place, I don't believe it's gonna happen. I don't even think we will ever be treated fairly enough to have peace, or be in a situation where we can be comfortable and be peaceful in our minds so we can have each other. So I believe that it will be better and safer, but I don't believe it will be just peace.
Ameena?
You know, God willing, man, inshallah. We're in a city of unrest, and it has been, you know, unrest as long as I can remember, you know, going back to Al Capone time, and, you know, and I believe that with proper guidance and the proper healing, I believe that we as a people can differentiate between the bullshit that we have been fed for years that has taken our families off the streets of Chicago. I really pray and believe that we will come together as a people and we can have this conversation about what it will take. What it will take, you know, without keep my name out your mouth, mind your business. Let's come with some real solutions that we may not agree on everything, but I know that we need to pay for, you know, for, you know, our legacy. And that's what needs to happen. I don't believe that there's going to be a solid day of, because of egos, I would pray that there will be a day that I can wake up, and without fidgeting, and my anxiety is out of control because I am searching to see if all is well with everybody here in the city of Chicago, including our babies. I would hope that that bullshit will slow down because it's not getting us anywhere, especially we're having an admit on top of an admit pandemic, you guys. So in order for us to understand where we're going, we have to understand where we've been. And young people, trust and believe. I'm not judging you. For the grace of God, there once was a brother named Malcolm X that once was me and you. And for the grace of God, there was a brother named, Marcus Garvey, so out of, what I'm saying is that there is a rough of a diamond that is very rough and it needs to be polished. And it's time for us to get it done, you guys. We can't do it any other way.
Thank you. If Larry, if your father could leave us with a word today, sitting where you're at, what would that word be? What would it be?
All right, well, when we talk about what's going on and what needs to be done, and he always says that, he always tells me to go back to the book. And the book is Growth and Development. And in that book, it always speaks about the fact that you're always striving to grow and develop, to change and get and go further. So I believe that the word that he would leave would be keep going and developing. Just keep striving, keep fighting, keep swinging, keep pushing for what you're pushing for, change, betterment of yourself, whatever it is. Just keep growing and developing because it's a real thing, and it's a big part of everybody's life. If you're not going and developing, you're dying. So
Period.
yeah, I believe his word would be keep growing and developing.
Period. Ameena?
Oh man, if it was something, a word that would give to me or to
us as the public.
It's a lot, and each character of what the public may be. It may be the youth, the community.
Yeah, the
it may
youth,
be
the community.
policing. Okay, the youth in the community. It's a couple. Security has always been the call of the day. You all are leaving your posts. There's no way that babies should be getting shot at the hands of gunfire, and one of the Black men in the community is at fault at it. There's a lot of what's going on today. I would say the same, uplift, continue to educate, help him get out of this crazy situation that laws only ties him to. It's finished. And that means when you do that, that means that you educate yourself, and you'll be able to go to those stones that they felt that was cemented in, and he was put down in a mountain, as well as, I need to say this, and for Mr. Hoover as well as when he's locked up in that institution, if there's someone there that is disrespectful to the Rangers, the guards there, or disrespectful and disrespectful to the female Rangers, they will go get Mr. Ford and put him in a cell to talk to the person that is being, combative, to mediate the situation as he's locked up 24 hours out of the day, and he's a menace to society. Those are things that he really wants to, people to understand and look at, the signs that are out here to continue to keep us incarcerated and in bondage.
I want to thank both of you all for your time. I think this was a historic event. This was a wonderful opportunity. I've known you guys the majority of all my life. And I love you guys with my heart and soul, just like I love my city. And that is why I wanted to have no other two individuals but the two of you on this platform today to address the severity of what's going on in our beloved Chicago. I thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for sharing your time, for sharing your words, and most importantly, for sharing your love. Thank you guys so much. I truly appreciate you guys. Ameena, if you want to tell everybody, if you have an email or if you have social media anywhere that they can find you or follow you, that'll be great. And Larry, after she does that, you can do the same, and we're going to close out.
Hey, you guys, I'm at, my handle on Facebook is Ameena Mathews, Ameena Mathews. Twitter is the same, and Instagram, IG, at The Real Ameena Mathews. You want to send an email out, if you don't DM me, pause for peace, PAUSEFOPOUSE @gmail.com. Thank you guys. I love my city. I want you guys to make better choices. We're in some serious times, you guys. Get out and vote. It does matter. It has to matter. It has to matter, you guys. Let's clear our minds for a minute. Let's do what we need to do to come together as a city. I love you guys. Chicago forever. Thank you, Frankie. Love you so much, sis. Larry.
Love you too.
Keep you in my prayers. Love you, sir.
All right, you too. We'll do the same. I'm at Larry Hoover 4214 on Instagram. I'm somewhat of a hermit, and we had a All Larry Hoover project, you know, and that supports it supports other people like my father and Ameena's father and people that are dealing with unjust situations, dealing with the government and what have you. And you know, we just got to keep coming with solutions. And like she says, we have to vote. We've been pushing voting since the 90s. Before the entertainers was rocking the vote, we was rocking the vote. And we know what's needed. And that's what scares them. If we can come together and vote and make the changes we need to control our communities and control the narrative of what's going on with us, you know, then we're a threat. But we're willing to be that threat. And,
absolutely,
you know, let's just keep going.
Chicago. You heard it here, man. Thank you guys so much. I love you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to WGCI for backing me on this, man.
Yes.
Make sure you check me out, Frank Rob 107 on Instagram. And make sure you check me out Monday through Friday from 12 to 3 right now, quarantine hours on WGCI 107.5. Man, God bless the city of Chicago. God bless both of you all. Thank you so much. And this was a special edition of Frankly Speaking.